Today on the Dennis Michael Lynch Show, we're going to be speaking about how we're losing our youth in America. It's a very important show, one that I need you to share, because not only is it hit hard, but it's all unfiltered.
Dennis Michael Lynch gives you his word, and he will never let you down. He will always fight for America.
The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hello, I'm Dennis Michael Lynch, and I thank you for joining me today. We're going to have a really good show for you. Believe it or not, we're not going to talk about the Muslim world. We're going to put that to the side for just a day. Although I would have about 50 different things I could bring up to you right now, but I'm going to put it to the side for the day. We have some other really good stuff to talk about, very important things. And no doubt somewhere along the line, I'm going to be able to, yes, I'm going to start the show with something about the Muslims. Yep, there we go. You can't escape it. But this is a good thing. You know, I say all the time that Ron DeSantis is the best politician of my lifetime. And what I mean is he is the best leader. And I know many of you may disagree with me, but I think that he is the best in the history of my time on planet Earth, 56 years, and better than Trump. The one thing about Ron DeSantis that is undeniable is that he gets things done. If he says he's going to do it, he finds a way. And I would bet my bottom dollar that by this time next year, I'm not paying property tax anymore. And it's been sort of easy for him because he has the supermajority here in Florida, both the Senate and the House. But keep in mind that, you know, Trump, and I understand why he did it. He was in a race. He was in a primary race, and Ron DeSantis was very popular at the time. But Trump was just too marketing savvy for DeSantis to overcome. And that's okay. Not many people can outdo Trump online or when it comes to, you know, a showdown of words. But if you look past that and you look at governance, if you look at leadership and making a promise and keeping that promise and keeping your eye on the ball, Ron DeSantis is simply the best. I don't care what anybody else says. And what Trump did, which I don't believe Trump believes, what Trump did to DeSantis was that he unfairly labeled him, smartly so, in terms of political strategy, in terms of winning a primary. You know, the gloves are off, it's bare knuckles. So I'm not slamming Trump for this. In fact, if anything, I'm telling him he's brilliant because he was able to land a tag, a label on DeSantis that did not apply. Ryan, what camera am I looking at? That did not apply. And he called him establishment. He called him the sanctimonious. And I remember when this happened, I'm like, man, this is so wrong. And although he did it and it worked on a national stage, it didn't work in Florida. And I want to remind you of something that happened. Ron DeSantis would not be the governor of Florida without Trump. So big, huge kudos, big, huge thank you to Trump. As far as I'm concerned, it's probably the greatest thing Trump has done in politics is give me my governor. Because living in Florida is like living in a dream, politically wise. And so when it was 7 years ago, when DeSantis was running for governor, he wasn't really polling well. And of all the Republicans who were trying to get that position to run against Andrew Gillum, Trump finally landed in on DeSantis. Smart play, one of the times he picked the right person. And then, you know, we won that by the hair on a chinny chin chin. Thank God, because Andrew Gillum turned out to be a freaking drug addict. What has happened in this state over the past 8 years is phenomenal, and it's worthy of book writing. And when DeSantis decided, and looking back now, it was a bad decision, probably the only bad one he's made. When he decided to run for president I think what he did was he bought his own headlines because he was so popular after COVID. And I think he learned a lot from that. And there is no doubt in my mind that he is positioning himself for a 2028 run. And if Trump doesn't turn things around, and we're going to talk about that today, J.D. Vance is not going to have a chance. And DeSantis is going to come up, and he's going to have a great chance. And don't think it can't happen, because in this state, the second time that DeSantis, ran for re-election, he was at war with Trump. Trump turned on DeSantis because DeSantis wouldn't give his approval for Trump because he had his own political agenda, DeSantis. And so Trump turned on him. But despite the DeSanctimonious and despite all the other different negative tags that Trump put on DeSantis, the people of Florida did not care. It is the one rare time in politics that I can remember in my 20 years where you had the most popular person in the party nationally hating on the most popular governor in the nation. And although the people of Florida largely supported Donald J. Trump, they didn't listen to him. They ignored him and said, we're voting for DeSantis. And DeSantis won this state by 20 points. Unheard of in Florida politics, which has usually been a swing state. It went from being a swing state to the most red state in the nation. We went from being which way is this going to run 8 years ago? We going to get Gillum? We going to get DeSantis? Who are we going to get? To now, we almost have a 2 million voter advantage. That's how good DeSantis has been. And DeSantis is, at this point right now, positioning himself for 2028, no doubt. And yesterday, he put out an order which just made me tickled pink. Effective immediately, Florida is designating the Muslim Brotherhood and the Council on American Islamic Relations, also known as CAIR, as foreign terrorist organizations. Florida agencies are hereby directed to undertake all lawful measures to prevent unlawful activities by these organizations, including denying privileges or resources to anyone providing material support. Now, what does that mean? Let me give you a few little bullet points here. Okay. So it immediately labels both the Muslim Brotherhood and CAIR as terror organizations. And keep in mind that CAIR is basically an extension of the Brotherhood. So under this order, it requires all state agencies to prevent unlawful activities by this group. And it bars state contracts, funds, benefits, or privileges to individuals, organizations who provide material support to them. It increases law enforcement's ability to monitor and restrict operations and finances for those designated entities. It encourages Florida's legislature to codify protections against these groups and Sharia law creeping into state laws. And it triggers potential lawsuits from CAIR. So you need to understand that they're going to try to fight this back, saying that's unconstitutional. And I'll give you an example of something that's taking place. I think we covered this on the show. If we didn't cover this on the show, I did it in one of my morning videos. I can't, sometimes the two blend. There is a voucher program here in Florida where, and I get it, where because my daughter goes to private school and because I pay taxes that fund the public school, I'm literally paying the equivalent of 2 tuitions for one kid. So what the governor did is he created a program where vouchers come back and I can use that voucher towards limiting my exposure to paying for private school. So in other words, in a more simplified way, I'm getting back the taxes that I'm paying for a school that I'm not using. So this way I can help pay for the school tuition that my kid is going to. Well, it turns out that Muslim schools, Islamic schools, are popping up all over Florida. And these schools are taking advantage of that voucher program, essentially making it to where 90 to 95% of the tuition is paid for through these vouchers. So in other words, the state is actually paying for these Islamic centers to be up and coming. I don't think DeSantis knew about this. It was only basically revealed going back about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm one of the people who revealed it. It came out of I got it from a place called Rare, which is a spin on CARE, and it's run by this girl named Amy Meck out of Texas. She's probably the single best resource for understanding what's going on in the Islamification of the United States. I follow her. I look at all her materials. It isn't a day that goes by where she doesn't have something new. It's really insightful. So when I saw that she had revealed this whole thing that was going on in Florida, I did videos on it. In fact, I'm trying to get, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. I got the Surgeon General 2 weeks ago on my show from Florida. I'm trying to get Ron DeSantis on the show. I don't do guests all too often, right? We're starting to do some more of them. But we talked as a team yesterday. I said, I just don't want guests for the sake of putting on a show. I want guests that add value to our audience. I want guests where we can make news and help shape things. In fact, it's funny. I had a guy this morning on my morning video say, Dennis, you're doing an unbelievable job. My videos are all going viral. My morning video yesterday about what happened at Cinnabon, and the attack on white people went absolutely viral yesterday on X. It did pretty well on Facebook as well, but on X it went crazy. General Michael Flynn, who I'm also trying to get on the show here. I think I think we already landed him. We're just trying to get a date. He retweeted my stuff. I had tons of people following it. I think we're at about. And for X, it's hard to get to these numbers, especially because I don't have a large following there yet, although we're sort of doubling every month. But I think we're at like 1 million views on that video, and it is powerful. And so what wound up happening is I had this guy comment that I should be getting more members of Congress to get involved with me in my message. And I said to him, hey, I'm working on it. I'm not going to go. He wanted me to go to Washington, D.C. and start, going up and down the halls and knocking on doors. That ain't how I do things. I'll have people on my show if they're willing to talk about the tough topics. As of now, tomorrow is when we're going to run a interview that I did with Congressman Salazar just days ago about her very dangerous Dignity Act bill that basically gives a backdoor amnesty to the illegal aliens in this country. So, and I think I win that argument with her. So that and other people that we're getting on this program, we are going to start making an impact. That's what I promised to you. I want this show to be more than just me getting up here and ranting and raving and entertaining and educating and everything else. We need to start making a difference. And we are, I can tell you can mark your calendar today. By next year, we will be at the top of the charts when it comes to podcasting. Not because of any other reason than we are helping shape policy. In fact, this morning, my morning video, if you haven't watched it yet, it's both now on Facebook and on X. I'll be putting it up to YouTube later and to Instagram later, which also on Instagram, we are doubling pretty much every month now. And because I've launched now my channels on these places because I'm going to be everywhere. And come January 1, I'm putting a ton of my money into this. There's no stopping the Team DML train. Mark my word. And you're a major part of it. And I want to say thank you for all your support. And every time you hit the share button, you're moving us closer to getting this country back on track. Because clearly, although I have an incredible amount of respect for him, Donald J. Trump is not getting it done with the crew he has. I feel as if they are not concentrating on what needs to be focused on. Even this order here from the Muslim Brotherhood. I mean, Trump put out an executive order sort of doing the same, but not. People don't understand it. I'm going to explain it to you right now, and then we're going to move into some of the other stuff here that's going on. But Trump's order is nothing more than a 7-day review period for the State Department and the DOJ and a couple of other different departments to take a look at the Muslim Brotherhood and see what chapters need to be punished. And it's never going to happen because the number one presence that the Muslim Brotherhood holds is in Qatar or Qatar, however you want to say it, Qatar. And yet, we've got the FBI director in Qatar right now. He was there over the weekend. He's cutting deals with Qatar. We're doing AI deals with them. We're taking free airplanes. They are just abusing the hell out of the United States of America, going down the plan of taking it over from within. Trump, for whatever reason, is aligning with this. And as I spoke this morning in my morning video, and I'm not going to double down, I invite you to scroll through my timeline and look at my video this morning. It is a 5-minute letter to the president. Dear Mr. President, and I explained to him how we're losing our youth because of the moves that he is making. And we're going to talk about that today at length, because if we do not change our tune, if we do not change the trajectory that this administration is taking right now, we're screwed. And I know a lot of people will say to me, come on, Dennis, he's only been in there for a year and the economy takes a long time to turn around and there's signs of it improving. And I'm not going to deny this. We are indeed in a situation where things are better than they were under Biden, but they are still increasingly bad. And I see, and other people who I talk to see, as things going in the wrong direction for the economy. We're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes as well. I'll read you a text from a buddy of mine who is in financial services and deals with very, very successful people, businesses from top to bottom. If you listened last week, we had a audio-only interview with a gentleman who used to be at BlackRock, left because he didn't like the way they operated, started his own financial services firm, very successful in Hawaii, and he agrees that this economy is going in the wrong direction. Trump doesn't see it. He's not seeing it. He's selling a different story. But in 3 months from now, worst case, best case 1 year from now, the bottom is going to fall out. And I tried to explain that this morning to the president, hoping that you'll share it. And if you do share it and it gets shared on X, it will get to him. When I talked about General Michael Flynn yesterday, posting my video on X, he did so by tagging J.D. Vance and the President of the United States. This is how the message gets played to them. So with that said, let's come back to a second, because the focus of today's show is we are losing our youth. And so I want to peel back. All right. So I took it to the 50-yard line. Now I'm going to take you back to the 20-yard line, and we're going to march towards the end zone. So here's how it goes. I want to tell you what took place in Florida yesterday with a bunch of youth from Philadelphia. They are all black. And here's the crime they committed, and here is how it was handled. Play the video.
Now I want to introduce you to 8 of the thoroughbreds, and here they are. You look at the thoroughbreds, and you find out, what were they doing? What were they doing on Saturday morning? Well, let me tell you what they were doing. They Ubered from where they were staying. They had come from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, down to the Dick's Sporting Good in Posner Park. Not only did they Uber down there to shop, they had no intentions of paying for their product. So they came into the store in two groups, and they began to systematically steal product. And that's exactly what they did. They stole, and they stole, and they stole, and they stole, and they stole. Yeah, how do you like that? This is everything that they stole. And guess what? As we've said before, you can't go any place, anytime, that you're not on a camera. So Dick's Sporting Goods knows that they're stealing because they're watching this systematic, organized theft ring called a football team. Now, not only did they steal 47 items, but ostensibly, they may have cost their team the championship and the football game, because I don't know if these all were starters or not, but I can tell you that we were finishers. We arrested them. We took them to the Juvenile Assessment Center, and we put them in lockup.
But let's start off in the black youth. What you just saw yesterday is absolutely pathetic, what happened here in Florida with these kids. Think about this for a moment. Your team is going to be playing in a championship, and you have, I'm sure, all paid expenses down to Florida. And you have an opportunity that most kids in the United States will never have. And what do you do with it? Instead of going there and focusing in on winning a championship, which, by the way, that team lost. I think the sheriff said that. But you wind up in jail. You wind up in jail instead of on the gridiron doing something that you'll remember for the rest of your life. How does that happen? Why does it always happen in the black community? Let me read you a couple of statistics that you need to know. In 2020, law enforcement made an estimated 424,000 arrests of persons under age 18 nationwide. Black youth accounted for about 34% of these, roughly 144,000, despite comprising only 14% of the youth population. You see that? That is a huge, huge problem. Percentage of young black girls with abortions. Black females aged 15 to 19 experience an abortion rate of approximately 40 per 1,000 women annually. And that's based on CDC data, equating to about 4% of this group having an abortion each year. Teens under 15 have a lower rate, but black adolescents face disproportionately high unintended pregnancy risks contributing to these outcomes. So basically what's happening is that these young black kids, both female and male, are having sex unprotected. The young girls are getting pregnant. They're going and having abortions, and the young men aren't sticking around. That is what is the start of the problem. The percentage of black homes without a black father is around 64%. Black children under 18 live in a single-parent household with the mother only. Now, that 64% number, that's up from earlier decades and far exceeding the 24% national average. So think about that. White kids, Latino kids, Asian kids, collectively, they're at 24%. 1 in 4 don't have a dad at home. And meanwhile, on the black side, 2/3 don't have a father at home. And now you could see why that's sort of happening. That thing that I just showed you with the sheriff in a football game is happening. Percentage of blacks attending and graduating college. About 37% of blacks are enrolled in college, while 26% of black adults aged 25 and over hold a bachelor's degree or higher, trailing the 35% national average. So again, they are below the number significantly. And maybe here is the biggest stat of all. Percentage of adult blacks with criminal records. As of 2010, latest comprehensive estimate, 23% of black adults had a felony conviction, rising to 33% for black males. That is 3 times the national adult rate. So what we're seeing is that the black community continues to vote Democrat, and the Democrats continue to provide nothing but an environment for crime, the breakup of family environment, and a lack of education. And the blacks continue to vote for the Democrats by and large, for one very big reason. Because the majority of black families across the nation are on some sort of welfare. So they are voting for their free stuff. Now, I bring this up not because the show needs to be about how we improve the black community, although I think that happens by default. I mean, the easiest thing is I can say to you, have them vote Republican. But I don't know if I can say that anymore, because the Republican Party is screwing everybody at this point. They are doing nothing better than the Democrat Party, only we try to disguise it better. And that is where the problem exists. Now, put that to the side for one moment, because we're going to get deep into why it is that we're failing our youth, specifically white Christian men. But take this back to second for the black community. What are they seeing as a leader? You know, Ben Carson, as far as I'm concerned, would have been and should have been the vice president pick for Trump in 2016 instead of that absolute buffoon Mike Pence. And the reason why he should have picked Ben Carson is because Ben Carson could have been a shining light to black families and black kids across this nation. Instead, he was tucked under the rug to go to HUD, which nobody even knows what, HUD stands for, especially in the black community. Major mistake by Trump. Major mistake. And so what they get today is Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett has now become the face for black America in terms of representation in Congress. And now she's actually running for Senate. Ryan, play the video of her announcement that she's running for Senate, U.S. Senate in Texas.
Right now, many people wonder why I jumped in this race so late, and I just want to be clear that this was never my intention. This was never about me. I never put myself into any of the polls. Listen, my question was, which congressional seat would I be running for? And for Texas 30, I love you, Texas 30. Okay, I'm gonna finish. But the more I saw the poll results, I couldn't ignore the trends, which were clear, both as it relates to the primary as well as the general election. I could have played it safe and continued serving in the United States House of Representatives for as long as my constituents would have me. But I don't choose to do that. Because Texas, this moment we're in now, is life or death.
Now, why is this important? Jasmine Crockett spends most of her days going after whites. She just went on this whole route. I think we were playing it last week, or maybe I don't know when we played it. But she went on this whole thing that white people, you know, we're the problem for the blacks. We're the ones who put them in slavery. She's still talking about slavery. What she fails to mention, and I think this is indicative of the same problem I'm talking about fathers not being at home. What she failed to mention is that when you look back in history, the blacks in Africa sold their own black people to America as slaves. They threw their own under the bus. So they always want to point at the white person as being the problem, but they never look at themselves. And that's what's happening today. You will look at white men being yelled at and screamed at by these politicians who are going to blame them for the problems of the black community. It's either the cop, the white business owner, the white person. Somebody is always causing the problem for a black. And it's just not the case. It's not the case. And until the black community takes a look at itself, it's never going to fix the problem that it's looking at. And for as long as they keep on getting Jasmine Crockett as the only people to look to, who makes an entire career off talking ghetto when she's far from being a ghetto girl. She likes to talk that way, but she's got some coin. This is why they're never going to get out of their own way. So what has to happen? The Republican Party has to give these black families something to believe in. And Trump started that process. But he is going to lose it very, very soon. Now, Trump just did something yesterday. And I like what he did. I'm going to read this to you because it explains it. President Donald Trump's announcement of a $12 billion aid package, dubbed the Farmer Bridge Assistance Program, delivers critical financial relief to American farmers who are grappling with the fallout from tariff-induced trade disruptions and escalating production costs, particularly for row crop producers of soybeans, corn, wheat, and other staples. Of this sum, up to $11 billion will provide one-time direct payments based on reported acreage, enabling farmers to cover urgent expenses like seeds, fertilizers, fuel, and equipment for the upcoming planting season, while the remaining $1 billion is reserved for specialty crops such as fruits and vegetables to address their unique market challenges. By disbursing funds as early as February 2026, the initiative acts as a vital liquidity bridge, stabilizing farm operations amid reduced exports to key markets like China, preventing a surge in bankruptcies, and offering certainty to market this year's harvest and plan resiliently for the future until broader policy benefits from new trade deals and tax reforms take hold. Here is Trump in the Oval Office with a farmer who is praising the president up and down.
But I will say that women are very difficult to be around.
Okay.
So there's that.
And do you think they should have the right to vote?
I do not. No, absolutely not.
They should stay at home?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
See, basically, you're just a misogynist old dinosaur, aren't you? For a young guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm the boomer. I know I'm the boomer here, but actually, you're a 27-year-old dinosaur, aren't you? Aren't you, Nick Fuentes? All women.
I am.
All women are annoying. All women grow old. They all get fat. Says the guy. Have you ever had sex?
No, absolutely not.
Wow. Says the guy who's never got laid. Wow.
That's the thing, though. You boomers, it's
you think
always
you're an
get
expert
laid,
in women,
free love.
given you've never got laid?
Yeah, we are going back to the Stone Age. You're absolutely right. This, you're talking about empathy and your kids are empathetic and they would never laugh at a joke about the Holocaust and you're a misogynist. You're a simp yourself. You're totally henpecked. That's the problem. So we are going back to the way
another.
Let me explain something that's going on right now in the United States. This way you have the information. The lab-grown meat sector, so fake meat, fake food, is growing rapidly in the United States. From a tiny $800 million market in 2025, it is expected to go to $10 billion by 2030. Think about that for a second. So Bill Gates is one of the people who is investing heavily in fake food, synthetic food. So basically what's happening right now is Trump is giving the farmer a little bit of breathing room for this year by taking tariff money and giving it to the farmers and saying, here you go. You're not going to enrich yourself. It's not like they're getting $1 billion each and they could put it in their pocket. No, I know. I mean, somebody who works with me on the DML News app lives on a farm, and we have actually gone to that farm and filmed. You look at a farmer, the amount of debt they carry for their machinery is astronomical. They get one bad season of weather. They have a crop die for some reason. I mean, what Mitch McConnell just did to farmers who specialize in growing hemp, he just destroyed them all. So everything is always against the farmer. And now when you take billionaires, globalists like Bill Gates, who wants to globalize food by making it fake, making it so this way you're eating absolute garbage, the farmers are getting this temporary 1 year, oh, okay, I can breathe. But that's not something that is sustainable. We cannot be in the business of just keep on bailing out farmers. Not that I don't want to, but because the math doesn't work. You can't be in the business of losses or else your country is going to fall to its knees. This is not a hard thing to understand. So if there was absolutely no synthetic meat, if this administration did something through the Make America Healthy Again movement, which honestly, I haven't seen anything significant from Make America Healthy Again other than crushing a red dye. Fantastic. But where are we in getting rid of what it is that these scumbags are trying to do to our food supply? You know, you look at the amount of people, the youngsters who are coming up with colon cancer. Colon cancer was always an old person's problem. When you got over 55 years old, you started to have colonoscopies every 5 years to detect whether you had polyps, resulting in what would be preventable colon cancer. Now, we've got kids in their 20s and 30s coming up with colon cancer out of nowhere. And people are like, gee, why is this happening? We can't understand why this is happening. Is it environmental? No, it's not climate change, idiot. It's the food. It's the food. Trust me when I tell you, a guy who has had stomach issues for decades, it's the food. And so what we're doing, slowly but surely, is not only we throwing our farmers into bankruptcy because fake food is going to be predominantly the food supply, and they'll make the excuse, the Bill Gateses who are going to make a fortune over this and control what's going into your body. Bill Gates will be dead by the time the impact is hit. They are not only putting the farmers out of business, they're putting cancer into your body. And so as far as the Trump administration goes, why isn't this being stopped? This should be the most important thing that they're looking at. Without food, we can't survive. But this is what Congress does. You got the Jasmine Crockett's focusing in on the big bad white man. You've got the GOP all fighting over whether or not Israel sucks or what else we can do as a business deal with the Qataris. It's asinine. And people are tired of it. And I'm fed up of it. And I know you are too. There should be, right now on Facebook Live, 3 million people watching this show. That's the other problem. They hold it back because all these people are all in on it. I'll shift over now to why it is I showed you that farm deal. That $12 billion is putting a Band-Aid on cancer. It is not going to work. What it does is it solves an immediate problem for a year, only to kick the can down the road. And at some point, when we don't have the power that we do today, even though nobody's wielding that power, we have the power of the Supreme Court, the House, the Senate, and the White House. And yet nothing's getting done. We're 1 year in. Where is any single person from the Obama and Biden administrations? Where are they being in trouble, getting jailed? Where is any of it? Nothing. Where is any legislation for voter ID? Nothing. We have nothing. We have the big, beautiful bill, which as far as I'm concerned is just more spending. We want to cut back on spending. This is why people are losing it. They are absolutely losing it. And now, let this come full circle. The crux of my video this morning, dear Mr. President, lasts for 5 minutes. I am going to give you the 30-second version. The President of the United States, although I have incredible respect for him and his fight attitude, he and his kids are completely disconnected from reality. I keep on hearing him and his kids talking about how great the economy is and how things are so much better than Biden. Let me ask you this. Do you feel inside this incredible euphoria of how great things are? I don't. Maybe that's because I've got 3 adult kids, 25, 27, and 30 years old, who, although despite making good money, can't even think about going to buy a house, can't even think about going on vacation, can't even think about doing anything. In fact, they're debating whether or not they should have their health insurance. Should they buy health insurance for next year? Because they're not sure if they can afford it. What happened to the white picket fence? What happened to the American dream? Imagine being a kid today, a white kid in America nonetheless. You did all the things you're supposed to do. And yet, you don't see anything. You don't see the system. You don't see the American dream. You've been hearing for the last 3 decades that the dreamers are the illegal aliens. What the hell? That's not what we're here for. We're here for our kids, whether they're white, black, Asian, it doesn't matter. The American kids are the ones who are supposed to be benefiting from all the hard work you did, I did, and the people before us. And it's not. We're giving it away to other countries. We're giving it away in business deals that are going to ultimately come back and bust our kids screwed. I'll give you an example. The AI deals that we're doing with Qatar, we talked about this yesterday. Why are we doing AI deals with countries that we know ultimately are either harboring terrorists or have shown over the course of time that their objective is to come into this country and take it over? Why? You want to know why? Because this president, despite the fact that I voted for him 3 times and I have an incredible amount of respect for his resolve and love for America, is misguided. And the people that he has in his administration are just as blinded as he is. It is impossible for billionaires and multimillionaires to understand what the average person is going through, let alone the white Christian male who has been told for the past few decades that he is the existential threat to the United States of America. You cannot do that after COVID, nonetheless, and think that you're going to get a result of where these kids are saying, I love America, I'll die for America. Right now in the United States of America, 85 to 95%, depending on the special forces that you look at, Navy SEALs, whatever, 85 to 95% of those people, our special troops, are white Christian males. 68% of our entire military as a whole is the white Christian male. What do you think happens to this country when those kids say, this country's not worth fighting for because it doesn't do anything for me. It hates on me. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm now the minority. I'm the one getting kicked down the road. I see the president of the United States shaking hands with another freaking Middle Eastern guy with freaking towel on his head. I see the president of the United States giving money, $1 billion to Syria, to the head of Al-Qaeda. What the hell? Where's that money coming to me? I can't afford a home. You want me to go put my life on the line for $40,000 a year while you're shaking hands with terrorists? I'm not going to do it. We are disenchanting. We are disincentivizing. We are freaking screwing our youth. And when Trump is doing these big international AI deals, and when he's got the top people from NVIDIA and Facebook and Microsoft and Google all hanging out at the freaking White House, these are the same people who just 4 years ago wanted to see him go to prison. These are the same people who 4 or 5 years ago were kicking him off social media platforms. Now they suddenly love him. Now he's the best guy since sliced bread. I just listened to Joe Rogan interview the CEO of NVIDIA, the biggest company in the world from market evaluation standpoint. That guy started off the show not talking about NVIDIA, not talking about AI, not talking about super chips, but saying about how great Trump is, that he has him on speed dial. You see what they're doing? The number one thing, the Achilles heel of Donald J. Trump, if you want Donald J. Trump to be your buddy, all you have to do is do what that farmer did. Tell him how great he is. Then instead of Santa Claus, my kid wants you to come down the chimney. You feed that man's ego, you get the world handed back to you on a platter. Now that sounds like I'm slamming the president. No, we all have an Achilles heel. We all have an Achilles heel. His is he loves to buy the good headlines. He wants the good headlines. So what does he do? Instead of having farmers, instead of having electricians, instead of having young white male or young black males coming in to have the big, huge state dinners, he keeps on inviting these big, huge head Silicon Valley heads. Why? Why? You're taking the people who are going to turn their back on you the second you're not in office anymore. Things are going to go back to the way they were the minute you're gone. Why doesn't he see this? So we're doing these AI deals. Let me tell you something. The president of the United States has about 3 months at worst, 1 year at best, until the bottom falls out. These AI deals, the money he's throwing into AI is going to literally put all of these 20 and 30-year-olds out of business. They're going to put them out of a job. They're going to have nothing. Zero. Now, I know you can't stop AI completely. You just can't say, hey, listen, you know what, AI, stop it. I'm not suggesting that. And you can't put that genie back in the bottle, but you can regulate it. You can make it so this way your deals that you're doing are just internal here at home. You're not doing deals with the Qataris. You're not doing deals with the Saudis, who are ultimately giving that money. The Saudis and the Muslim Brotherhood and the freaking Chinese are giving money to the United States, doing AI deals with the United States because it knows that AI is going to destroy the economy because we're not going to have people who are going to have jobs. They're going to start voting Democrat because they're going to have no choice, just like the black community, to keep on voting for welfare. It is going to be a subject of survival. It is going to be people saying, I can't believe I'm pulling the lever for a blue person, but the GOP completely sold me out. They sold me out to the Middle East. They sold me out to the Chinese. They put debt on me. They allowed Bill Gates to make fake food. They allowed NVIDIA and they allowed Facebook and all these other different places to create AI and do it for businesses across the board. And now I don't have a job. And the president won't put in mandatory E-Verify. We showed you yesterday on this program the young man in Louisiana who is a contractor, a white kid, who sits there and says, my phone hasn't been ringing in 3 months. I can't get any work. But all of a sudden, ICE comes in, and now all of a sudden the illegal aliens are afraid to come out of their door. And I'm getting phone calls from general contractors more today in 1 day than I have in 3 months. So what does that prove? That proves that if you put mandatory E-Verify in, that what's going to wind up happening is you're going to see jobs jobs for Americans, open up. But that's not what's happening, because the people in the White House are telling Trump, and Trump is buying it because he used to be a builder, that if you get rid of the illegal aliens who are doing the jobs that Americans don't want to do, we are going to have an economy that's going to fall flat on its ass. And meanwhile, none of those people can find their ass with both hands. The AI is going to kill the job market for our kids that are never, ever going to recover. It is not something that is temporary or an ebb and flow. It is not something that is cyclical. It is going to end it forever. And this administration, this president, this entire business BS industrial complex of the CNBCs and all these other different places, they're all going to benefit from it. They're all going to make it in their stocks. They all hold NVIDIA. They all hold Facebook. They're sitting there making a fortune. And when the bottom falls out, they're going to sell all those stocks. They're going to have their money. They're going to have their multiple homes. And our kids who are 20 to 30 years old are going to be absolutely screwed. And if you think you're going to get these kids to join the military to protect us and the entire world, you're out of your mind. And that's when it is that the Chinese and the Middle Eastern countries are going to take over the freaking world, and we're going to be sitting there saying, where are we left to go? How the hell did this happen? Well, I thought we were going to make America great again. What the hell is going on? We are losing our kids. There's no other way around it. Now, if you want to see this in shining colors, I am going to give you right now, never did this before, I am going to give you an 8-minute video. This interview is just breathtaking. This is between Piers Morgan, who I think is an absolute liberal buffoon, and Nick Fuentes, who all of a sudden, out of nowhere, despite not having any experience, he's 27, has never been laid in his life. Excuse my French, this is the words they use. The kid's got zero experience, yet he has become the messiah for the 20-year-old. You want to know why 20-year-olds are looking to this guy? Because they're saying, why can't I find anything? Here's somebody who at least is speaking about how bad things are for white people. And here's where the problem becomes, because Nick Fuentes wants to blame the Jews and wants to blame everything else except for what is really happening here in the United States of America, which is that the politicians that we continue to vote in on both sides of the aisle wind up getting bought and paid for. And if they're not bought and paid for, like our own president, he sees the dollar signs and he sees the headlines that he's going to be the messiah of the entire world, when meanwhile, what he's doing right now is he's flushing this country down the toilet. He just doesn't see it yet. So here is an interview that is just going to open your eyes to what our youth is starting to believe. And I'll tell you this, I can't blame them. Play it.
See, my point to you, Nick Fuentes, is that in parts of this interview, you try to come across as moderate, but every now and again, the mask slips. And it slipped again here with what you say about Hitler. There's nothing very fucking cool about Hitler. We know that from history now. We know what he did. You've already conceded that he murdered at least 6 million Jews. So when you say he's very fucking cool, Jewish people watch this and go, this guy's disgusting. Why would he say this about someone who perpetrated such an evil? And what's the real answer? Why do you? Is it just for clicks? Is it for money? Is it just for fun? For shits and giggles? What is it? What motivates you to say something like Hitler was very fucking cool?
It's for this. It's for all of this. And the lack of self-awareness is amazing. You're a boomer. You're a 60-year-old boomer. And we've spent maybe 3 minutes on you saying, he's a really fucking monster. He incinerated people. And I'm sitting here saying it's not that serious. It's not that deep. And
not that
what
serious.
I'm getting at.
Not that serious.
Do you want to say more about he's a monster?
You're not a kid yourself anymore. You're not a teenager.
I know.
Right? You're nearly 30, to be clear.
Yeah,
okay? You're a fully formed adult who has a brain, right? And at some stage, that brain is taking you off these rabbit
Is this an
holes.
interview or is this a lecture? Can I respond to what you're saying?
I want you to explain why you think it's fine to say how fucking cool Hitler is and to dismiss the very powerful 90 seconds from a British journalist who lost a lot of family members to the Nazis in such a callous, dismissive manner.
I don't think it's powerful. I think we've been hearing that our entire lives. Okay. The Schindler's List. Let's just be honest. The propaganda is over the top. We have been in America.
What about the Schindler's List? Tell me about the Schindler's List. Well, tell me about the Schindler's List.
I'll tell you about it. We have been browbeaten as a people, as Americans, as Westerners for our entire lives. And you know what this has done? It has taken away any sense of pride, any sense of love for our own civilization. We have been made the villain in our own story. We have been made because, well, let's just be clear. It doesn't begin and end with Hitler is a monster. This has been the political narrative, which is why we have thrown open the borders. This is a political narrative, which is why we can't be a conservative society as a whole anymore, why we can't be proud of Europeans, why we can't be proud of being Christian, because they've told us if you're too white and too proud and too Christian, it's going to lead to a Holocaust. And so my generation, our entire lives,
honestly, Nick Fuentes,
and that's why people like me. That's why I'm popular, because this is bullshit.
Shit. Honestly,
yeah, it's a crock. We don't want to hear any more about me mom and me dad. That's a crock of shit.
No, listen. What you just said is a crock of shit, and you know
true.
It.
It's called the open society.
In your gut, you know it is. You weaponize this stuff. You weaponize this stuff for money, but you know when you say something like what you just said.
I'm banned from banking. I'm banned from banking and credit cards. You know who you're talking to? Yeah, I do it for money. And by the way, how much money you make? Your company's worth $100 million. Your company's worth $100 million. I was banned from Bank of America.
And you shouldn't
I'm
have
banned
been.
from processing credit cards.
And you shouldn't have been.
But I am. So don't tell me I'm doing it for money.
Well, ask me my opinion about that. I'll tell you shouldn't have been. Right? I don't agree with that. What happened to you?
Then don't say I'm doing it for money, because you know that full well, and you say it's a grift.
How much money
if I wanted to be a grifter, I'd be like you, and I would go and say,
how much money are you making?
I'm making a lot of money now.
Yeah.
Now that I'm the #1 live streamer in America, because people agree with me more than they agree with you. We're tired of hearing about slavery and the Holocaust and Jim Crow. We're done hearing about that. You guys
I'm not done hearing about that.
Okay, well, your generation's on the way out, and Generation Z is coming up, and we're finished with that. We're ready to take our country back.
I've got three
we're
sons.
not listening to crying minorities anymore.
I've got 3 sons, and they don't share your views about slavery and about the Holocaust. They can have decency and compassion and humanity about some of the worst things that have happened in the last 150 years or more. They can do that, and they can also have concerned views about issues like immigration and other issues. The two things are not mutually incompatible. You can have different views about different things. It's your lack of humanity and compassion for people about things like the Holocaust, about slavery. It's that people find so contemptible. And I don't understand why you need to do that. Again, I just ask you, is your motivation financial? Is your motivation for fun? What is the motivation for saying these outlandish things, which you don't need to say, and which I suspect, I don't know, I suspect a lot of it is performative. So what is the motivation?
I'm an iconoclast. The Holocaust is not my religion, and it is treated like a religion. It is treated like a religion with dogma, with blasphemy laws, and that secular religion says, and you say that's a crock of shit. It's intentional. It's called The Open Society by Karl Popper. It's by these architects of the liberal order after World War II. They got together and they said, how can we make sure that Hitler never happens? How can we make sure that totalitarianism never happens again? And they came up with the consensus, which is that we need to take down nations, religions, fathers, the authoritarian personality. We need to be empathetic and altruistic. We need to be diverse and pluralistic. And that experiment isn't working. And I'll tell you the truth. Right now, and you can laugh at this, you can scoff at this, our people are being genocided in our country. 50% of the live births in the United Kingdom and in the United States are non-white. In 100 years, my ancestors, your kids who are so empathetic and compassionate, they're going to be a minority. They're going to be a minority in maybe a Muslim country, an Indian country, an Hispanic country. And these Jewish people that are 100 years old talking about my grandparents and the Holocaust, they don't care about that. Actually, they like to see it. At the SPLC, they're literally counting down the days until whites are a minority in America. So forgive me if I don't believe them when they talk about compassion. There's a genocide going on right now. It's not against the Jews.
How many Christians are there?
In Gaza, it's against whites.
How many Christians are there in the world? Like me,
1 point some billion. Yeah, 2 billion.
How many Jews are there?
15 million.
Okay. So with a straight face, you're going to tell me the world is being overrun by the Jewry, by 15 million people, when there are over 1 billion Christians. There is a genocide of Christians like poor old Nick Fuentes going on at the hands of these 15 million Jews. Really?
See, this attitude is why you're losing. When you say,
who am I losing to?
White people,
who am I losing to?
White people.
Who am I losing to?
You're seeing it. Mass migration. You're losing to me. We are losing as a civilization of mass migration. And here's the difference. In Israel, they have my politics. In Israel, they want to maintain a Jewish majority. If they had it their way, it would only be Jewish people. They're fighting like hell so that Jewish people can have as much territory, a Jewish state. They can be proudly Jewish in their own land. Whereas in America, we are being besieged by 10 million illegal immigrants in 4 years. And then whites and Christians are going to be the minority. And that's true in Canada, Australia, all the countries in Europe. So you could say there's 2 billion people, but what's the proportionality? What is the percentage of people being born that are white? Where's the arrow pointing? Where are we going to be in 50 years? In 50 years, there might be in Israel. In 50 years, there isn't going to be a white Christendom.
You don't believe people should get married, right?
I think people should get married. I'm a Christian.
But you're basically anti-marriage, really. You've talked about this. You've talked about.
Are we done talking about white genocide?
Well, no, I'm coming to the same part because
I'm going to comment on that. But before I do that, I want to give one more little tiny 1-minute video clip of Nick Fuentes, his stance on women. Play it.
But I will say that women are very difficult to be around.
Okay.
So there's that.
And do you think they should have the right to vote?
I do not. No, absolutely not.
They should stay at home?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
So basically, you're just a misogynist old dinosaur, aren't you? For a young guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm the boomer. I know I'm the boomer here, but actually, you're a 27-year-old dinosaur, aren't you? Aren't you, Nick Fuentes? All women.
I am.
All women are annoying. All women grow old. They all get fat. Says the guy. Have you ever had sex?
No, absolutely not.
Wow. Says the guy who's never got laid. Wow.
That's the thing, though. You boomers, it's always
you're an expert
get laid,
in women,
free love.
given you've never got laid?
Yeah, we are going back to the Stone Age. You're absolutely right. This, you're talking about empathy and your kids are empathetic and they would never laugh at a joke about the Holocaust and you're a misogynist. You're a simp yourself. You're totally henpecked. That's the problem. So we are going back to
another.
Okay, let me dissect this all. First of all, let me say that in many different ways, both of these men are correct in some level. On the other side, I'm going to tell you that Nick Fuentes, as much as he may have a very strong argument about the genocide of white people, which I agree with, his position on the family, although he says he believes in the family, but women shouldn't vote, you should abstain from having sex until, he's 27, he still hasn't had it. The problem with this is that somebody like Nick Fuentes is popular simply because some of the things he is saying make complete sense to young people who have absolutely no North Star. Take this entire show and this entire message and put it into one wrapped up thing. Why do you have 8 black youth who are going to play in a national championship for their high school, have a free trip to Florida? Why they decide to go steal stuff from a freaking store instead of just going and playing their football game? Because they have no father at home. They have nobody to look to. They got Jasmine Crockett. Why do you have white young men listening to Fuentes? Because they have nobody in the world of podcasting, nobody in the world of news or politics that can relate to them. Think about what I'm talking about. Is Don Jr. a cool guy? Is Eric Trump a cool guy? Yeah, I bet you if you sat down and you wanted to go on a fishing trip or you wanted to go hunting with them, they'd probably be a ton of fun. I'd probably have tons of laughs. But here's the difference. How many white kids today are able to go on a hunting trip? They can't afford it. So you got a billionaire president and his billionaire sons. You got an entire Washington, D.C. that is basically made of elitists. When was the last time you saw somebody like me in Washington, D.C.? When was the last time you saw somebody like the average kid down the block in Washington, D.C.? They don't get any headlines. The only way you get any headlines if you're in Washington, D.C. is if you're a raging lunatic or a fast-talking lawyer. That's the way you get it. The average guy no longer has any representation. That's how he feels. When he says, oh, you want me to cushy up to Don Jr. and listen to his show Triggered? What are you talking about? The guy's making gazillions of dollars. He doesn't understand my plight. When they turn around and they look at the athletes today, athletes are getting paid $100 million contracts. You can't look to an athlete and say, oh, I'm going to listen to what this guy says. He can't relate to me. When you look at the podcasters, you've got at the top of the list, you've got Tucker Carlson, you got Candace Owens, you got Steven Crowder, let's say for younger people. Freaking Tucker Carlson is over buying properties in Qatar or Qatar. He's worth probably north of $50 million. You got Candace Owens, who is just making freaking money. It's dripping on her because of the crazy nutty stuff that she continues to say. Then, of course, you got Steven Crowder, who's got tons of money. All these people have tons of money. They've all got security. If tomorrow AI comes and takes over podcasting, it is not going to take a dent at a Steven Crowder, at a Mr. Frickin' Qatari Tucker, and it's not going to take a dime out of Candace. The only thing that's going to hurt them is their ego. They're not going to have people telling them how great they are anymore. These kids are getting sick of it. So when you've got Nick Fuentes telling you, hey, I know why you're not getting ahead. Finally, the kids are sitting up saying, oh, why? Somebody tell me because nobody else is telling me. Please tell me why. Everybody, Trump, 50-year mortgage. You really think that's going to fix the problem? There is a genocide of white people. He is completely correct. The reason why mass immigration to Europe and to the United States of America has been allowed to proceed is not simply because of cheap labor or cheap votes. If you keep on buying into that statement, you never hear me saying that. If you keep on buying into that statement that I used to say 15 years ago, 20 years ago when I first started, I said, this has got to go beyond cheap labor and cheap votes. Doesn't make sense. And you figure out what it is. It is the eradication of the white person. Nobody wants to have a majority white. We have been told through the media messaging that is paid for by propagandists around the world who want to destroy the United States of America. They figured out how to do it. Just go take that youth and make them feel as if the American system that they see the boomers having, tell them that it doesn't work. That's how it works. That's why you've got Qatar and the Middle East giving $8 billion to our colleges. It's why China is giving billions of dollars to our colleges. It's why it is that you see these pro-Palestine protests all over the place. And you say, what the hell? Why are these people championing for Hamas? Because they want these kids to hate Israel. They want them to hate anybody who does business or supports or says anything kind to Israel. So Piers Morgan's got a point. Wait a second. You're going to denounce the horrors of the Holocaust? All these people burn in an oven? And Nick Fuentes says, I don't want to hear about it anymore. It's propaganda. I don't want to hear about it. There's a genocide going on right now with my people. That's all we want to hear about. Screw the Jews. They're buying our government over. He's got a certain point. What he's missing is the fact that the bigger, badder wolf is the Middle Eastern and the Chinese. The Qataris, the Saudis, the Kuwaitis, the Iranians, the Egyptians, the Jordans, they're all together. Their money supersedes any Israel money at all. Some guy said to me yesterday, well, if you think you're concerned about Qatar, go look at AIPAC. I have looked at AIPAC. They're spending hundreds of millions of dollars compared to the hundreds of billions of dollars being spent by the Muslim Brotherhood and the people who defend them and the people who all read the same thing called the Quran who want to take over the United States. The biggest fight in this world 20 years from now, if we don't fix things and we're on our knees, the biggest fight is going to be between the Chinese and the Muslim world, fighting over who's going to take control of the United States now that it's been weakened to the point of where Fuentes is right, where 10% of the population is white. And the only thing we're going to have to grip on is our AR-15s. But listen to this. The other 90% of this country, whether they're the Somalis, whether they're the Chinese, they're going to have those AR-15s too. And that's what Nick Fuentes is trying to say. And that's what I am trying to say to our president. You have got to stop supporting what is ultimately the end of the white young male. And then because what happens is we're getting people like Nick Fuentes who says women shouldn't vote and boys shouldn't be having any sex. That's a miscalculated message. He waters down his powerful message by the stupidity that he keeps on spitting out because he's a young man with no experience. But there's a reason why. There's a reason why, so many different black men go into prison as Christians and come out as Muslims. Do you want to know why that happens? Because the black guy who's gone into prison, and I told you, 1 in 4 black adults have a felony, not a misdemeanor, a felony, 1 in 4. So why is it that you've got so many black guys going into prison as Christians and walking out as Muslims? Because they sit in that jail cell and they say, how the hell did I end up here? And they never equate it back to my father left me, my mother was sleeping with 50 different guys, the people who were trying to educate me in school didn't really give a rat's ass. They just cared about the teachers union and how much money they were going to get every year and their summer vacation. They really didn't give a rat's ass. Nobody cares about me. They don't look at it that way. What they look at it as some guy coming in and say, well, because you're praying to the wrong God. If you weren't praying to Jesus and you were praying to Allah, everything would change for you. Oh, okay. Because people are looking for an excuse of why did this happen to me? But nobody wants to look in the mirror. Nobody wants to look at mommy and daddy. Nobody wants to look at who it is that they're pulling the lever for on election day. They just want to keep on blaming that it's somebody on the outside. And that's why it is they go to Islam. That's why they go to Islam. We have got to take a look at what is happening right in front of our face. The number one resource in this country is the white Christian male. That is not to denigrate women. But here's the deal. If we go to war tomorrow, guess who's getting called up? The 18, 19, 22, 25-year-old white kid who's going to wind up either told, hey, you're going to be a Navy SEAL. Hey, you're going to wind up being a pilot. Hey, you're going to wind up going up that grassy field and go. 68% of white Christians make up our military. 85 to 95% make up our special forces. We are taking them out at the knees. We are giving them nothing to look forward to. And I am telling you right now, and if the president of the United States was in front of me, although I have an amazing amount of respect for him, he's just another man. He doesn't play 4D chess. He's just another man. And so although I would have respect for him, I would say it straight to his face because I'm not going to be the farmer. What I'm going to say to him is, President Trump, you're missing it. You got 3 months, maybe a year. Take it as a death sentence. This economy and the AI economy, as you're allowing it to metastasize unregulated, is going to literally light our youth on fire. This country is going to go downward, and it's going to be on your watch. You think you're getting on Mount Rushmore? You're going to wind up being rated the worst president in history. Biden and Taft will look like Batman and Robin compared to you. You've got to change this now. And if he doesn't, if we don't change course, if we don't stop believing that everything's going to just be another few months away, can't do it in a day. If we don't stop believing that, we're going to lose. We're going to lose everything. We're going to lose our economy. We're going to lose our military. We're going to lose our country. And we're going to lose the fact that this is a Christian nation. It will become an Islamic nation. So the Nick Fuentes of the world have a message. It is completely clouded, but at the same time, the Piers Morgans of the world are completely disconnected from what it is that our kids are experiencing. And Piers Morgan's kids cannot relate to what it is that the Nick Fuenteses relate to. I have a very, very good finger on the pulse of what's going on. In the same way I knew 20 years ago what was going to happen to immigration, I had my finger on it. I knew it was going to take this country to its knees. I wasn't sure how long it was going to take, but I proved myself right, unfortunately, because nobody did anything about it. We cannot allow that to happen a second time. I am calling the emergency 911 right now. If this president and this administration do not recognize that we are not doing enough for our youth and believing in what America can be, we are finished. And that is that. That's it for me today. Not sure if I'm going to be with you tomorrow. Oh, yeah, even if we do play the Salazar, I'm still going to introduce it. Probably going to do that tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll play the Salazar thing. So we'll be with you back tomorrow, God willing, at 10 a.m. Eastern on Facebook. And I think tomorrow we're going to YouTube instead of Rumble. So just go to YouTube and search for Dennis Michael Lynch. We're trying to build all of our channels other than just our Facebook channel. So we'll probably be live on Facebook and live on YouTube. And of course, as always, Team DML and the DML News app. And I have been promising Team DML and other people who have considered joining Team DML a whole new experience. And Ryan's been working around the clock on this. We're really close. I expect it's going to be ready for the new year. If it's not, I am going to throw him into the canal with the alligators. That's that. Until the next time, thanks for listening. Went a little long today, but I was passionate as always. Until the next time, God bless you, your family, our president, our youth, and the United States of America. We'll talk to you soon.
Get the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML.